Thank you, everybody. Our beautiful jazz band have played us into the beginning of our ceremony, and I would now like to invite them to play a piece specially chosen to play us to the beginning of our celebration for the one and only Flora Gill. Very beautiful. Yes, thank you. Let's clap. A very elegant beginning. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Victoria Spence. I am a life rights celebrant, a friend to some of you here today, and it is my privilege to be with you as we come together and celebrate the full, powerful, and loving life of the one and only Flora Gill. Let's come inside, everybody. Find yourself a seat. As we begin our ceremony today, I'd like to do so by acknowledging the original caretakers and custodians of this land, the Gadigal and the Wangal people of the Eora and the Darug nations. And today, as we celebrate one of our elders by continuing to weave stories of love, loss and life into our shared existence in this place, we also pay our respects to all Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging, and welcome any Indigenous friends with us today. Here we are in the beautiful Balmain Sailing Club, here at the working end of Sydney Harbour, by far the best part of the harbour. It's a perfect place for Flora's gathering and celebration today, because here we tune in to the history and the feel of this part of the Inner West. We reaffirm the spirit of industry, of workers' rights and commitment, and we reclaim and claim this as one of Flora's places that you can all come and remember her in. And so I would like to warmly welcome all of you here. I'd like to remind those of you who may not already have done so to please turn off or down your mobile phones. There's a couple of seats down the front. If you've got a seat next to you, raise your hand. There's two at the front. Well, I'd like to warmly welcome you all here, those of us in this room and those of you who are with us via the live stream from your homes around the country and the globe. I would firstly like to welcome Flora's sister Etty, who has come all the way from Tel Aviv to be here today, to pay her respects and to do what sisters do. We are so glad that you are here, and we deeply and warmly welcome you. I would like to welcome Flora's adult children, daughter Talia and son Tiger and Tiger's partner Finnegan. I would definitely like to welcome Flora's much-loved grandchildren and bestower of the name Mogga, Billy and Georgie. Is Georgie in the room yet? I'll welcome her again when she arrives. Okay, she doesn't love a crowd. Well, we'll just be a very small and dispersed crowd. I would like to welcome Flora's former husband, Rob, and his brother, David, and David's wife, Ginny. I'd like to welcome Flora's niece and nephew, Kat and Andrew, and all extended family members, Graham and his wife Prasan and their daughter Emily. So too Warren. I'd like to welcome Warren, the husband of Flora's bestie Judy, who has not long passed and who is most definitely here with us in the love and the memories that we hold for her. And I have it on good authority from Tiger that they are definitely hanging out together again, as best friends do. And to all of you who have turned out to be here today, family and friends on the live stream from Israel, Hong Kong and the USA, long-standing friends, I'd like to welcome many of Flora's former students with whom she forged vital and deep enduring intergenerational friendships. I'd like to welcome all neighbours, fellow academics and thinkers. I would like to welcome Flora's friends and colleagues from the Jewish Voices for Peace and Justice. I would like to welcome friends of Talia and Tiger's who became friends of Flora's independently of knowing her through her children. And if I've missed anyone, I'd like to welcome all of you, all members of Flora's diverse and incredible communities. Because everybody here, and so many more besides, have known Flora in different capacities and for different lengths of time. And together, we make up the full depth and richness of her life. A life that we will share about today. A life that many of you know came to its completion on the 3rd of February at St. Vincent's Hospital. Now, there were some complex and challenging times in the months before Flora's death. And I know that Talia and perhaps Tiger will speak more to this. What is true inside all of the complexity is that when Flora's death came, it came suddenly, and it was a shock. And even though she was of a great and significant age, and she lived with some frailty, the rapidity of the infection that took her over the threshold was something that needed time and real after-death care to help move the shock through the bodies of her family and close friends. And this is what happened. After her passing, Flora was lovingly cared for by us, both at Life Rights and her family, where Flora travelled back home in her beautiful eco-coffin to hold vigil in her family home once again. Her coffin was lovingly decorated Her family and close friends had time to come and contribute to the craft and the love, and a lot of long-held breaths were finally exhaled. Taking Flora home was something that was absolutely the right thing to do for her children and for her. At the completion of her vigil, that was peppered through with love and stories and creativity and cups of tea and laughter and visits, Flora's body was privately cremated. And her energetic and cremated remains are here with us today, as is her incredible spirit. Here we go. Today, we continue to be with Flora. She's here in the beautiful flowers that are her namesake. She's here in her incredible fashion. She's here in the beautiful fabric and embroidery. She's here in her photographs. She's here in your stories and your memories of her. And you will see in your order of service that after the dedicated eulogists, there will be time today for some of you who may wish to share your memories and time spent with Flora from here when we open the floor. And I know everyone here would love to hear your stories, briefly told. Many of you also signed a beautiful book of Flora's when you arrived, and perhaps you have already shared a story and perhaps you just wrote your name. But I know that Flora's grandchildren and her children would really love you if during the course of our afternoon and evening together there is a memory or an anecdote or a story that you wish to share. Please take the time to write it down before you leave. Because these gatherings are incredibly special. This particular makeup of people, well, we may never be together again in quite the same way. And today we are going to time travel. We are going to time travel through Flora's life and our memories. And I know that in keeping with her spirit, she would love us all to leave today, having met someone we didn't know when we arrived, and more connected, more embedded in the deep and rich weave of family and community that so defined her. And perhaps you can smell some of it, but there is a sumptuous feast being created in the kitchen right now, and I implore all of you at the completion of our ceremony, please do stay, because there will be some fantastic food. There's also going to be a Flora's book available for sale, and our beautiful jazz band will play us into the afternoon and evening. Flora's beautiful flowers will be divided into posies, and I invite you to take some with you to press or to keep or to put in water. Because when we come to gatherings like this to honour the completion of a life, these gatherings, they are our right, they are our privilege, they are our responsibility, and they define our humanity. And to mark the completion of a life with stories, sharing a meal and spending time together, not only allows us to lay the foundation for healthy grieving, but this is the stepping stone to legacy. How we integrate the completion of Flora's life into the continuation of ours. And so before we begin to listen to the stories, I'd like to take this moment to just arrive, to lay to rest any of the shock and the sadness that you have experienced since Flora's passing, or any of the rigours of Sydney traffic to get you here, and to just sit here and be with all that surrounds us, the quality of the light, the beautiful view, the feelings that you have, and really just to reflect upon the lasting gifts that Flora Gill has given us, not just with her living, but what is it that she gives us with her passing? Thank you, everybody. To begin our stories and testaments, can I please invite Flora's daughter, Talia, to speak?
Thank you so much, Victoria. It feels like you knew Mum for years. Victoria came and spent time with Tiger and I very shortly after Mum passed and asked many questions about her, and obviously she listened. As many of you know, I have ADHD. I'd just like to say I finally came up with what I wanted to say at 4 a.m. this morning. At the cafe at 9 a.m. I made my notes, Valentina's, great cafe, and then, just chuck that there, at 3 p.m, due to be here at 3:30, voila. I'm not sure if the band is here, but that was beautiful. It was perfect. Sandy Jacka, are you here? Sandy is a pianist and she played Mum and I the full Chopin Nocturnes one magical afternoon at Mum's house. And we all love the Nocturnes, so very meaningful. Okay, so firstly I would like... Is that kind of weird? I've never spoken into a microphone. Okay. So firstly, I would like to really thank you all for being here. You've travelled far and wide, and I've got to say I've been looking forward to today. It's really, really lovely to be amongst so many people from so many different realms of Mum's life who loved her. I would like to say a big thank you to my beautiful family, to Tiger, to Georgie and Billy, to Jonathan, to John, to Dad, and then Etty when she finally came, Mum's sister. I love you all so much, and I think that Mum's passing has brought us so much closer, which I wouldn't even have thought was possible, and it would make her so happy, and I feel so lucky to have you all. And Etty, just don't take that return trip home. Just stay with us. Massive shout out to Life Rights, to Victoria, to Sky, to Kim, to Vicky, who beautifully cared for Mum, who's a massage therapist who moved into caring for people after they've passed, to the awesome Jimmy with the shiniest shoes in the world and the most fly outfit, who delivered and picked up Mum from her house. So many people, when they've asked me how I am after Mum's passing, have kind of gone, you've got a really big smile on your face. And then I tell them about Life Rights, because I'm getting goosebumps, but it's actually been the most beautiful journey since Mum passed because of these incredible people. And I actually realised 3 years ago that I want to be a death doula. I was born to be a death doula, not even knowing it existed. Then I Googled it and came across Victoria. So, okay, I will move on. I will just say, though, sooner or later, you guys, not being too morbid, might need someone like them. So www.liferightsfunerals.com. I don't think they're here, but I wanted to also thank the awesome band, Hinano Fujisaki Jazz Trio. But they're not here, so I won't bother. Oh, sorry guys, they're awesome, get their number, they're the best. And the club, it's the most beautiful club. And it was the most lovely personal interaction getting this space, and they've been so flexible and awesome. Thank you. And you guys are allowed to get alcohol after. Victoria said no alcohol for guests before because they might get too trashed. Afterwards, go for it. Okay, I meant to keep to 10 minutes. So there was so much I could say about Mum. I was at a loss. Thankfully, so were Tiger, Cat, and sort of Billy. So last night we were cramming for an exam and going, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? And I said that I had the brilliant idea to talk about sort of what led up to Mum's passing and her actual passing, because a lot of you obviously want to know about that. Then Tiger said it was his idea. So I am leaving him to that, which is good because I have so much to say. So yes, Tiger will fill in about that. I had decided, because 3 is a magic number, that I'd just choose 3 core traits of Mum's awesomeness. Enter Victoria with the visual aid. This is Mogga / Mum. You don't have to hold her up. Okay. Now I've just, all my things are out of order. Okay, so I went for alliteration. So I think 3 awesome traits about Mum are her charisma, her commitment, and, believe it or not, her chillness. And I'll explain why, because I know you're sceptical. So we will start with these visual aids are to help you follow my structure, because I do teach presentation skills at uni. Charisma. So I think you will all agree that Mum had charisma in spades. And I sort of have a few examples. One of them is that she, as Victoria actually touched on, she would forge these amazing relationships with people, and it would be like my boyfriend, and suddenly they've got their own little relationship and dialogue going on. So, for example, years after I'd broken up with someone, I'd suddenly see the name of my ex in Mum's inbox. What the hell? Still having chats. Obviously, I really loved that. One of the exes is here today. They had some robust discussions about what was it? The UBI. Yeah, whatever it's called. Okay, and so yes, the friends, also my friends, like so many, as Victoria again said, so many of my friends are here today because she's just arrived. Lizzie, my bestie. She had her own relationships with my friends simply by meeting them, and I absolutely loved that. And one of the gifts of that is that Lizzie and I will be able to reminisce for the rest of our lives about Mum. Sian and I will too. So I loved that. And another, I guess, striking realm of friendships is that she befriended a lot of her own friends' kids. Nadia, Natalia and Misha are here. So Charlie, Scarlett, so I think all of this is testament to the fact that Mum forged friendships across all generations, and really all it took was for her to be face-to-face with someone and bang, Tim Shorters, her GP, total bestie. And then another aspect of her charisma is that the relationships she forged with her university students were enduring and well beyond what was probably professionally allowed. So one of my memories, oh my God, I'm thirsty. Tiger and I used to journey to Sydney Uni to the lovely Merriweather building and hang out at her office after school. And I remember I'd be lying in her yellow vinyl beanbag, do you remember it? Very 70s, with the crochet plant hanger. And her students would come in and out, and occasionally they'd actually be there for some kind of, academic thing. But primarily they were there to talk about their intimate relationships and get advice or cry on her shoulder. And quite a few students actually came out to her before anyone else as well. Yane, were you her student? You were, right? Yane is here. Maria and Paul are live streaming from Hong Kong. She actually match made them after Paul walked into her office while Maria was there and said, "Whoa, what a hottie, Flora, can you hook us up?" And Andrew Charlton, who we must now refer to as the Honourable Member for Parramatta or whatever, he is another very close friend who began as a student, and he does attribute his career trajectory into politics in part to Mum. He actually was over in India explaining Mum's theories from her book to the Indian government just a few weeks ago. I actually have words from both Andrew and Paul and Maria that I'll read later on. I better get moving. Okay, so in terms of, we're still unfortunately on charisma, the first of 3 traits. The other, I think, really pronounced thing, which again Victoria touched on, is the random stranger connections. I think you all know what I'm talking about. So, for example, Mum became pen pals with Miriam Margolis. How? They'd both attended some play. It was late at night. They were at the bus stop opposite the QVB. Ended up chatting. Miriam was meant to come for dinner. We were all devastated when, what's her name, Mrs. Sprout or whatever, from Harry Potter, didn't come. So I was like, "Mum, how did that happen? How did you become friends?" She was like, "I just said, you're Miriam Margolis," and it happened from there. It just all the time. So I lived with Mum for a year in my 20s, and I remember coming home one day and there was this guy at the table with her and he was familiar. I was like, "I know you." And he's like, "Yeah, Adrian, Coles, checkout." And he, of course, Mum knew because she had her people that she'd go to, her buddies at the checkout. And he was studying economics, so he was there to get some statistics instructions, as was Lucy at another point in time. The random stranger things, another one is that Tiger's friend Shah rocked up one day to the studio they shared and was like, "Oh my God, I just met your mum on the bus." So, yeah, Mum loved to make friends to whoever she was sitting next to, so they had no idea they had a connection. Mum loved to tell women of all ages that they would still enjoy orgasms well into their 80s. So they really bonded when she brought that up with Shah, and then at some point they realised that Shah was Tiger's friend. So I wholeheartedly agree. Make friends with someone that you don't know, discuss orgasms, whatever it is, bond. The last random stranger relationship that Mum forged was actually in hospital in St Vinny's. So her and Amanda probably met 5 weeks ago in the heart and lung transplant ward. She's here today. She's going to say a few words. I'm getting goosebumps because, I'm so sad that Mum spent those 6 weeks in hospital, but one thing that brings me a lot of comfort is that she forged such a beautiful connection with Amanda and her husband David and their daughter Rose. It was just instant love, and Amanda was there with her day and night. So I won't say more, but what a beautiful last random stranger to connect with. These next two are faster. So, next awesome trait for Mum, also a C, is commitment. And I think 2 aspects of commitment that stand out for me is firstly the causes that she believed in, so the social and political causes that she believed in, and then secondly her commitment as a mother and a grandmother and a friend and a sister. In terms of causes, I guess she never had a hope not to be like that. She was born into it. Her parents were both from Bulgaria. They were from quite affluent families. They were university, tertiary educated, and they left Bulgaria as post-students in their 20s to start a new life in what was British-occupied Palestine prior to Mum being born and Etty being born. Definitely part of that was motivated by the rise of Nazism, but equally they were Marxists and they believed in the notion of equality, and in their mind it was going to be working side by side all the different races and religions. It obviously didn't turn out, but they went to a country where they didn't speak the language. They became factory workers because they couldn't use their qualifications. So Mum was born into that. Her first little foray into being an activist was that she was part of Hashomer Tzair. Etty, what does that mean? What does Hashomer Tzair mean? The Young Somethings. Basically, it was a communist youth movement, and it was a massive part of her life. She became a leader pretty young, and the amount of stories that she told about it and her deep, deep friendships were from there. She was Etty's gang's leader, wasn't she? That would have been a bit weird because Etty's 5 years younger than her. And then we jumped to her PhD. She moved from Jerusalem, where she was studying, to Stanford to do her PhD. She had majored in history and economics in her undergrad stuff. So her topic was on the migration of African Americans in the States. Like, what was the pattern of their migration in pursuit of paid work? And her premise was that through, the conventional way to look at that was just to say, all right, well, it's economic. There's economic impetus. Here's the work, here's the money. But what she wanted to say was actually, in tandem to that, are the social motivation. So we know people here. They've already got work. We won't be alone when we go there, etc. And so that really laid the foundation for her life work in a sense, which culminated, yay, she published it in her book. For sale down there, we've decided, Dad, that you're in charge of talking to people who want to buy it. So this, and in a sense, I guess what she was saying is that nothing is purely rational, as economics suggests, and that we always have to think about the emotional aspects of any decision, and that will actually allow us to think about things like how to make an equitable workplace environment where social justice can prevail. I'm getting there. And then one other aspect that, was after her PhD is that, as Victoria mentioned, I might not get this name right because I always get it wrong, but she became an active member in Jews for Peace and Justice. So a lot of those people are here today, and Cherie and her husband have actually put on the spread for us. Now, don't worry, the other aspect of her commitment was as a mother and grandmother. I'm not even going to go there because there's too much to say. I started and it was like, so I'm just going to say amazing, always there for us. And it was such a gift that not only was she incredible for me, but then she did that all over again for my 2 girls. Look, I crossed out heaps because I realised it was too long. Crossed out. All right, now we just get to the last C, which is chillness. Everyone's waiting to see what the hell I mean by that. So yeah, Mum was super excitable, passionate, volatile, all those things. But actually what we came to discover is that in some kind of crisis, it was like she was infallible. She'd be like in the eye of the storm. And, like when I got diagnosed with cancer, people were like, well, how's your mum? Oh my God. And I'm like, she's pretty fine, actually. And so I guess that was kind of awesome when we were growing up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tiger, because, for example, we were allowed to say any swear word at all except fuck, and only because making love was a beautiful thing. Either Mum and Dad were clueless or they were very liberal, because we kind of like all the parties were at our house because you could get away with doing all sorts of things there. And then I guess just one other example of that, and this is my last little story, is that when I was in labour with Billy, it's a very good example of Mum being unflappable, and I think that we can agree that labour is akin to a storm. So essentially, I was home alone when I started to go into labour, so I called Mum, who lived a mere 10 minutes drive away, and said, Mum, I think I'm in labour, you need to come, I'm alone. She was like, okay, I've just woken up, but okay. And then Half an hour later, I call her back, panting at this point. My neighbour later tells me she could hear me like for hours in there. I was like, why didn't you knock? So I called Mum, where are you? And she's like, well, I've only just gotten up. I just finished my shower. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and then an hour later, I call her, Mum, really? She's like, well, I had to charge the battery of the digital camera to take photos of the birth. And I need my porridge. It will be a long day. And I'm like, you have to come. So I find out later, at this point, I'm probably 7 to 8 centimetres dilated, still at home by myself. And then finally, there's a knock at the door. So I like staggered down the hallway. It's feeling like it's just impossible. I open the door. There's Mum, big grin on her face. She's got the porridge pot and the wooden spoon. And some of you will know that Mum's porridge making is a very, very timely thing. You have to stir in a certain direction for 1,000,000 years. It's her mum's recipe. So anyway, she had to leave before it was finished, so she just brought it along. And I could go on. Finally she's here, and then I'm like, all right. And I'm like in the kitchen like this. And I'm like, silent. She's there at the stove. There were other things. Finally, we were getting in the car to go. Mum's like, just a minute. I'm on all fours. Just a minute. She jumps out. Turns out she was putting up that shade thing because it was February and it was hot for her car. Because who knows how long the neighbour's going to be. Then she disappears and almost misses Billy's birth because it was so fast. Turns out she didn't like the fake flowers in the birthing suite and she popped off to get some fresh ones. So, yeah, Mum, I often think maybe it's because she grew up in Israel and it's pretty intense there. So anything else, cancer, labour, whatever. I have finished. In the interest of sharing the floor, I will just say one last thing. Anyone who knows me might notice 2 very striking things about my appearance. The first one is I'm actually wearing shoes, which is a rare occurrence. The other one is my hair has been washed and combed. Mum, I guess she realised at some points that maybe she was going to pass away. We noticed that she started to frantically disseminate these kind of gems of wisdom. And a lot of them were really profound. Billy got profound ones about study and believing in yourself. Anyway, mine was 2 things. You really should start to wear shoes. All it takes is one rusty nail. So for Mum, today only, and maybe not for the whole night. And even if you don't care, wash your hair, brush your hair. If not for you, for others. I will now hand over, and again, thank you all for coming.
That was fantastic. Well, I would now like to move from daughter to eldest granddaughter and one of the bestowers of the name Mogga, Billy.
Hello. Wait. Oh yes, true. Mogga was a fan of the Birkenstocks. I wanted to start by just adding on to what Mum was saying about the last couple of weeks of Moggy's life. I just liked her friendship with Amanda, and I remember that hospital room she was in St. Vincent's, and it was just this felt like obviously a hospital is sterile, the LED lights, but just the room she was in just had this warmth and love and just this homely feel. And, she'd introduce me every time I came in, and a nurse would be helping her. She'd know their name, she'd introduce me to them. She'd have a rapport with every single orderly or nurse or doctor or specialist that came in. And I think that really just shows, I don't know, such a special part about Mogsy and her just openness, and she'd just love to learn about new people and what their lives are like, and to teach them things. And that hospital room, they'd do crosswords, and there was a point where all like other 3 patients in the room, and the nurses who came in were joining in the crossword she was doing, and I just thought that was really beautiful. And I'm not exactly sure what order to do this in. I have kind of some, it's not super duper organised, but I just wanted to say that I miss Moggy's massive, beautiful smile and her voice, and the way she'd always work idioms and interesting words that she learnt into her conversations. And also when she'd look after, she just always has looked after me, like since I was a baby, and when I was sick and home from school, and she'd make me the Jewish penicillin soup and honey lemons and cooked apple and just tend to me. So I don't know, she was just so devoted. And then I have a letter that I wrote to Mogga and read to her and then put in her coffin. So I thought I would end by reading that out. Dear darling Moggy, I wish I could have been with you on your last day and night, and I could have said goodbye to you and held your hand and told you how much I infinitely love you, and that you're the most amazing, inspiring, beautiful human and grandma. You were like a second mum to me, and every moment I spent with you, I treasure so dearly. You always made me feel so deeply and unconditionally loved, and I always knew how proud of me you were. From the moment I was born, you always were so excited to teach me anything I wanted to learn and would explain it so patiently. I'm so grateful for all the times I got to live with you, especially the year we had just us when I was 15 and 16. You were the most devoted grandma. She'd get up at 6:30, even though, as you probably all know, she'd usually stay up watching the news till about 1 a.m. But anyway, she'd wake up at 6:30 for me because I found, I don't know, I couldn't wake up to alarms. And she'd make her porridge for me, and then she'd yodel up the stairs. She'd go, Bilika, Bilika, and then I'd run down the stairs, get ready for school, and eat my porridge. I don't know, it was the best alarm clock. And I used to love more than anything lying on the couch while you were in the chair next to me and listening to the beautiful classical music you had on the TV. If I ever couldn't fall asleep, I'd come and lie next to you in your bed, and you'd pat my back just like you've been doing since I was a baby. There's like a very specific rhythm and everything. Yes. I always felt so calm and grounded and supported in your company. Thank you for always looking after me, Moggy. We had so many traditions, reading the famous 5, our chai sessions, doing puzzles, rummy cube, crosswords, going to the Post Cafe after you picked me up from school. You're such a massive part of who I am, and I'll always carry you within me. Thank you for instilling the love of learning in my heart and always believing that I can do anything. The thing I'm most grateful you taught me is to love and feel all emotions so fiercely. Moggy, I miss you so much. You are truly the most insanely special, vibrant, intelligent, generous, and loving person, and being so close to you all my life was the greatest gift. Even though I miss you so much it hurts, I'm glad you're not in pain anymore and your gorgeous spirit is free. I love you to the moon and through all the stars in the universe and back again, times infinity, from your Bilika.
Wow, Billy, that's so beautiful. What an incredible tip off the old block you are. I'd now like to invite Flora's niece, Kat, to speak.
Thanks, Victoria. That's hard to follow that right away. I didn't know that I was next. I'm just going to take a moment to compose myself. I'm Flora's niece, Kat. My family relationship with Flora came via her marriage to Rob, my dad's brother. But yeah, I think I'm here today to speak from the perspective of probably lots of us who had a love and connection, a relationship that maybe could have been fleeting or a little bit distant. I always have mostly lived in a different state to Flora. But it was so much more than that, because I was drawn in by that charisma that Tali spoke about, and I couldn't resist. And Flora, my relationship with Flora was really special to me and something that I treasured. I thought I would just talk about a few of the little things that captivated me about her from when I was really young to when I was older. And I think, at the heart of it is that actually this isn't something that captivated me, but a quality that was always there was that I felt loved by her, and I felt that made me feel really special. And it, even though I knew that I was one of so many people in her orbit because she loved so many people, that gave me a sense of identity and pride to be connected to her. So some of those little things, obviously there was her voice, always so expressive. She had fascinating stories about lives in other places, doing really amazing things, being in the army. She liked to talk about wearing high heels and dresses at Stanford and boast a little bit about how good she was at wearing high heels, that she was like a gazelle. She always had such beautiful hair. Her hair always the perfect centre part and an elegant curve. The colours that she liked, I think we all know the colours that Flora loved, and the two homes that she had were both such beautiful places, full of art and lovely textures and music and books. And to me, she gave me a glimpse of a life that I wanted to live that was a bit bigger than the one that I knew. I lived with Flora for just short periods of time, a few times in my 20s and 30s, and Tali as well. And she was so welcoming, and I feel like she really taught me that core value of hospitality as well. But alongside that, she had very clear ideas about the way she liked things done in her home. I often think of her so regularly when I'm making my coffee at home, because she had this really quite complicated system where she would use the plastic wrapping from the Sydney Morning Herald on the bench and you had to lay it out and use it to stop any drips from the grip, but also then you could wrap the grounds in the plastic wrapping and put it in the bin. And she really patiently explained it to me, and I really diligently tried to follow it as well as I could, and I really loved that about her. One of the ways that Flora has influenced me is she really... I loved hearing her talk about her childhood growing up in an apartment building, and she spoke about how much she loved living in quite a small, crowded place with lots of extended family and people coming and going and laughing, and kids and adults and shouting and fun and stress, and just how much she loved that, and how different it was to how a lot of us tend to aspire to live in Australia. And actually in your cards, I'm going to show you. I might have this story wrong, correct me, but this photo of Flora with her arms like this, I think is her finding that building with Tiger, and you went there together?
Yeah, we went in and we went up into the apartment they grew up in.
Yeah, amazing.
That's the triumph.
Yeah, the triumph. I now really happily live in an apartment building with my two girls in a way that's very different to how I grew up. And I also have been working in housing in a community role, and I've become a huge advocate for us embracing different ways of living in Australia that are a little bit less attached to everyone having their own things, and how can we share resources and live in a way that enables us to be more connected to the people around us. So I really value that influence of Flora's. Now I have to find my notes. I think that might be all my little details. Sorry for looking at my phone. I just wanted to circle back, and I think Victoria kind of said this already, but I've been thinking about how if feeling loved by someone gives you, someone really special, gives you a sense of identity and belonging, what happens to that when they're not here anymore? Sorry if I'm... Anyway, I think what's really valuable about events like this is actually it can kind of grow because we all share that together. We were all part of that. We all have that little part of our identity. So I'm really happy to be here, and thanks for listening. And thanks to Tiger and Tali and Billy and Georgie and Life Rights for creating this opportunity for all of us to come together. Thank you.
Incredible testaments and eulogies that really just reflect on the quality of the fantastic Flora. I would now like to invite... Sure. Georgie, up you come.
I was wondering if you cannot clap at the end. I've never spoken in front of a crowd before, but let me just find something. I don't really know what to talk about. I wrote a speech, but it's kind of confusing, even to me. But if you get your little books of Flora, and you go onto this page where she's under a tree, and you also flip through to other pages of her just as she's young. And we have one of my sister and her. But when she was growing up in her house, her little apartment, I heard her say that she used to go onto the balcony because she was on the top level, and she used to chuck pegs down at people. And I know as my mum and her brother Tiger, they used to live right close to a park, and they went and played. And that's kind of all I have.
Excellent, Georgie. I like that punk spirit. Just jump on in there and tell us some fantastic stories. So that's our first little Renegade Open the Floor moment. So get your other little stories ready, everybody, as I now invite extended family member Graham to come and speak.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. You probably think that I look very much like Rob and David. They're my cousins, but their mother and my mother were twin sisters, so we're really half brothers. I was lucky enough to meet Rob's beautiful girlfriend Flora some 55 years ago at a small beach cottage that our mothers jointly owned. It was always overfilled with wonderful friends and relatives at Christmas holidays. I didn't know it then, but Flora, some 14 years my elder, rather liked this shy, unhappy-looking, gawky 18-year-old moping around the house. I didn't realise how important her friendship was to become. When Tali asked me to say a few words today, I was of course delighted but nervous. Especially nervous because I'm not in a position to speak of Flora's incredible life and influence on many of her other friends here, nor am I very good with rigour in getting details correct. You'll hear more later. You'll bear with me, Plo, as I speak of her influence on me and her broad family. I can actually hear her waiting to correct my errors in facts and anecdotes. Please be nice, dear Flora. Over the past week, it's been a great joy to reflect on Flora's diverse attributes, and we've heard so much today, which make her such an incredible woman and friend to so many. I realised Flora was one of three people who most shaped my adult life. Firstly, my dear wife, Prasan, who taught me the beautiful culture of Thailand, strong and loving and caring, yet indignant about our Western racism and misogyny. Secondly, Jan's brother, Michael, that probably no one knows here, a school teacher and a radical communist. Our long debates over lots of bad, mudgy wine turned me away from my privileged North Shore outlook. I love strong people. Then there was Flora, who was my sounding board on life's values and the influence of economists on much of what I saw as the country's rotten treatment of the underprivileged, the environment and the climate. I dared to debate with her, and of course our sparring of ideas generally became heated and sounded rough, but I gained so much, and I know Flora loved our discussions. So why do we love her so much? And we've heard so much of that. Firstly, I'm so respectful of her amazing understanding and personal insights in her academic profession of economics. Facts are crucial, and her arguments are amazingly researched. Her passion was fair treatment of workers, social justice, and I understand that these leftist views sidelined her in not being allowed to teach some of the subjects to undergraduates in the early years. I think she overcame that little hurdle later on. No one will say her beliefs were not strongly held. But now, with her book recently published, those views about labour justice will live on, highly researched, meticulously argued and documented. It was such a joy to hear her achieve this and the true value to her profession. Secondly, Flora's love and care for those around her. Despite her strongly held views, she was always very open-minded, more open-minded than I realised, thanks, Tali, and liberal, allowing her family to grow into their own individual selves. She always provided immense love and care and support when life's difficulties arose. Such a deep passion for caring for those in need and genuine interest in all our lives. Thirdly, her house was always filled with fun and joy and pranks. And thanks, Georgie. Roselle and Annandale were our stopping places in Sydney whenever we travelled from our homes in Cooma, then Gold Coast. Arriving late one night with all the Gills asleep, we crawled tiredly into our bed to discover cat vomit, or maybe it was cat poo, I've forgotten, on the sheet. So we fiddled around tiredly for an hour, as quietly as possible, to find and fit a new sheet. The next morning, the kids and family were hilariously amused as they showed us the plastic vomit they'd planted for us. And how successful it had been. We actually changed the sheets. They didn't expect that. Then there was the glad rap on the toilet trick. Played on me successfully twice by Billy over there, who's kept kept the routine going. I hate to think what Georgie's going to get up to. And they had a little cat trained to climb cupboards. This was very early days. This is Roselle days. And ambush unsuspecting victims by leaping on their shoulders. Never a dull moment in the Gill house. Flora's and my views on social injustice and social inequality were largely mutual. I love to learn more about the role of economists in how it was so bad, in how it got so bad. She was always meticulous in her facts and research and had to correct me whenever I expressed a view not quite right. It was a way of showing love. Even a few days before she died, very sick in hospital, the conversation moved into this familiar territory. She corrected me vigorously. Do you want me to give you a detailed lecture? I'll explain after you've read chapter 8. Yes, there was the old twinkle in her eye, an optimism she may educate this difficult student. One attribute was her intolerance of our Anglo pretense and stiff upper lip and avoidance of disagreement. Conversation is a debate of ideas and differences are a huge virtue in society. Be prepared to boldly express your beliefs. Be realistic, you may be wrong, and be prepared to modify your views. This creates wisdom and a beautiful but challenging culture. It's been a big learning curve for a young kid, trained to care what the neighbours thought and to be mindful of looking the part of class and privilege. Yuck. Thank you, Flora, for assistance on that journey. So Flora's passing leaves a huge hole in all of our lives, I know. Especially her close friends and family. We'll miss that laughter, that caring, that thoughtful wisdom, that bottomless giving and sharing, the rigorous debates. But let's not be sad today. Let's celebrate all she did in her amazing life and the influence she's had on our lives. Let's live a bit more boldly. Let's care and give more to those we love. Let's share our beliefs and grow wiser by accepting and debating differences. Let us be vocal to call out social injustices and make a change in the world. Let us be more rigorous and factual in our beliefs. That influence is Flora's legacy, and we're so grateful. Thank you, Flora.
Well, thank you, Graham. An incredible legacy that is a gift to all of us. To complete our eulogists, I would like to invite Flora's son, Tiger, to speak.
Victoria. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming today to help us celebrate Flora's life. It's really, really lovely to look out on this sea of faces and see all these people who were connected to Flora and feel something for her and are missing her today. So just want to thank you all for that. My speech is a short one. You probably heard our speech writing process was not ideal. And I've woken up with a bit of a migraine this morning, so this is what I came up with. Flora was the fierce heart of our family, and the world feels a little diminished without her. She held us together with bear hugs and a firm insistence on gathering for meals. She was there for all of us anytime we needed, no matter what kind of challenges she was facing. It's hard to imagine a more caring, loving, and dedicated mother and grandmother than the one that Georgie, Billy, Talia, and I were blessed with. I miss her kindness. I miss her sparkling intellect and her passion. I miss her wacky dance moves and her unique exercise routines. I miss our arguments over politics, and I miss finding out later on that I was wrong and she was right. I miss her love of music, her love of reading, and I miss her love of meeting random strangers on the bus. And many of those strangers are here tonight, having become good friends with Flora. Flora's final days were not easy. There was a lot of pain, but also there was a lot of family and a lot of love. And thankfully, in the end, she died quite peacefully. She had Georgie and Tali and Billy and I beside her. And she was also able to say goodbye to her sister Etty and her granddaughter Billy by telephone. So she got to say goodbye, and she got to have family with her at the end. Her last request was that we keep talking, which she said she found comforting. So I like to think that she slipped away to the sound of our voices, the voices of people she loved who loved her back. Yes, so I know that all of you here today were very special to Flora, and that she loved each of you, and she would be moved to see you all here helping us celebrate this wonderful and incredible life. So thank you for coming tonight, and thank you all for caring about Flora now and forever. And I also just want to thank Life Rights Funerals for the really gorgeous ceremony and all of the support they've given us. And I'd like to thank Cherie and Bob for the catering. I'd love to thank the band and everyone else who's contributed to the memorial and everyone who's turned up. So thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for your incredibly deep listening. There's been some incredible stories and a path of legacy paved for all of us to just drop into. I'd like to open the floor now. We have just a few moments for anyone that has a little story that you'd like to share. I give you the floor.
Evening, Mark Stockdale's my name. I was privileged enough to be Flora's physiotherapist for 20 years. We hit it off straight away, and I found her fascinating, and of course was always running late after she was there. I mean, there's a lot I'd love to say about Flora, but I thought the best thing was to read a text message that I sent to Tali from last year. I used to drop in after work for a whiskey with Flora in Annandale, and we'd talk about all sorts of things, usually politics. And like Tiger says, she usually corrected me. But this was a particularly interesting night. So it was in October last year, and she'd gone through her funny exercises. So we usually did that for the first 10 minutes. They were quite different to what I'd taught her, but they seemed to be effective. So it was the next morning. I texted Tali, had a lovely catch up with Flora last night. Tali texted, "Really? That makes me so happy." And I said, "Yep, it was even more interesting than usual. At one stage, your mum was telling me about her parents, and I asked about whether there was a purge of the Jewish population in Bulgaria during World War II, and she said, 'Watch this.' And I sat down on the couch, and we spent the next hour watching the extraordinary story of Bulgaria protecting their Jewish community." Excuse me. Next text. I've always found your mum extremely interesting, sis. A rare, true, cosmopolitan/progressive in a world that's sometimes gone odd. She's adorable. There was a funny Mogger-ism expression that I'll have to tell you about, but made me laugh inside. She was telling me about her very principled father, who felt strongly about not exploiting people. But she was talking quickly, and I'd just finished work, a long day, and I thought she said he felt strongly about not exploding people. That's all, really. I think it gives you a glimpse of our relationship and her character. Thank you. We'll miss her.
Is there anyone else that would like to share?
Okay, shorty. My name is Nurit, and I met Flora in the early 90s through my friend Ziv Cohen, a relative of her whom she loved very much. My husband and I moved to Lilyfield with our young children, and for a few years we enjoyed living in the same neighborhood of Flora, Rob, Tally, and Tiger. I used to pop in to say hi, discuss backyard plants, her family camping trips, recipes, and go for walks through Cullen Park, Glebe Park, and the Foreshore Walk. Flora and I are both from Israel, and speaking our mother's tongue with each other have enhanced our bond and connection. Flora met my parents in their visits to Australia. She enjoyed their company, especially discussing history, politics, and books with my dad, Alter. Flora was very special to me, and hers was often a voice of reason. She spoke with a rich, modern, and old Hebrew, and used to describe her personality as Dugri, an Arabic slang word meaning straightforwardly, with no beating around the bush, or straight from the shoulder. Food and hospitality. When I came for a visit, I recall her ritual of serving homemade coffee, olives, almonds, and dates as a sweetener. I have learned from her how to cook leeks with garlic and tomatoes, a Bulgarian Balkan dish from her family's tradition. As you might know, Flora's parents migrated from Bulgaria to Israel, and she could speak and understand some Ladino, a Jewish offshoot of Spanish and Hebrew dialect that developed among the now exiled Sephardic Jews, but it became quite endangered, the language. Some of you know that Flora took Spanish lessons and eventually embarked on with Tally on a special long travel experience to Argentina and South America. Flora took a special interest in photography, which made her proud and feel creative. She was passionate about music, and the sounds of recorded classical music often filled her home. Did you know that for a while Flora used to keep her plastic bags neatly folded? I've truly sat with her and practiced it. In the past few weeks of her life, we had more contact, which I'm so grateful for. I visited her in the hospitals and was struck by her lucidity and acceptance. We spoke about the painful war in Israel and Gaza and found a common ground with our political orientation. My last spoken words on the phone with Flora was a day before she passed away. She was hopeful, looking forward to my visit. Thank you, Flora, for being you and our friendship. I carry you in my heart.
Oh, just one more.
Sorry, everybody. I know you've been sitting for a long time. I thought I had to come up. I'm Amanda. I was privileged enough, to have known Flora for such a short time, but opposite her in hospital. We did have a wonderful room. A lot of other people came and went, but we were the stayers, even to the point where Flora was asked if she wanted to leave, and I can't do the accent, so I won't even try. And she was like, no, I must stay with Amanda. We're staying together. And I'm like, Flora, you might get your private room, you know. So we forged this amazing friendship, as everyone's already spoken about, strangers, complete strangers. She offered my husband and I her house. We were in a pickle post-surgery. I was to leave hospital. We're from regional New South Wales. She was adamant. Tiger even approved, apparently, that we could stay in the house. And just so generous and loving. And I will just sum up by, I think Kat touched on it, the love. To me, Flora just oozed love. She loved every single one of her children and grandchildren, loved her friends, loved her ex-students. I've probably heard a lot of stories about all of you in that short time. She shared a lot, her loves, her losses, and her stoicism. It was just so there. And in that room, Flora was a lot in years older than me, and she inspired me to heal. She would encourage me to get up, or whenever she saw me getting up with my walker very slowly, she'd skip by me with hers, and but always thought that I was progressing quite well. We had a lot of plans. We had a lot of common interests and similarities. We were both Pisceans. My father and his family were from Balmain, very Labor-oriented. All of who Flora was, it was just like I was hearing all about my family and their origins. And it was such a loving relationship that we forged. She loved hearing or wanting to know all about my husband and I, our love relationship. We've been together almost 30 years, and she was fascinated by that. Shared me a lot of stories about Tiger and Tarly and the kids. I won't repeat them all today. But it was just, I suppose, something to... my name's been mentioned a couple of times today, but what Flora gave me in helping me heal, I will always cherish. And I'm going to get to that Cherry Moon Cafe, and I'm going to have that bread, and I enjoy my dark chocolate at night, and I'm going to get a big bag of pistachios, and hopefully with Georgie one day, and sit and peel them, because that's very good for your fingers. She always wanted to keep active. So very inspiring lady, and thank you for listening, and thank you, Flora, for sharing love, and I hope to share that with others as well. Thank you.
Just one more.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean, one of the old boyfriends. I thought I should speak because I've got a very different interaction with Flora and a very different experience. 5 minutes after meeting her for the first time, she bounced back with mistaking me for Aboriginal with, "So Sean, what do you think about UBI? Universal Basic Income," right? And it just so happened that I did have thoughts about Universal Basic Income. An hour later, I'm leaving this, long drawn-out discussion that was supposed to be 10 minutes, and the one thing I didn't feel was like an idiot. Even though I'm not an economist, totally uneducated, she educated me, and I learned something, but she didn't once make me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about or that my opinion was invalid. And that's what I remember about her, and I'll really miss her. Thank you.
You coming? Of course you're allowed to speak.
Now, I haven't known Flora for very long, and she's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. I'm very sad that she's passed away. Sorry, one sec. Flora is the most beautiful person I've ever met. She's the nicest person I've ever met, and she I hope she has a great time watching us talking about her. Now, Flora is one of the most unique, wonderful, and creative, very creative about her routines. She has been a big inspiration to every single person in this room. Thank you.
Oh, Obi, that was very special. Now, there are some tributes that have been sent through which we're going to put on the table.
I'm reading this speech on behalf of Louis Haddad, a very dear friend and colleague of Mum's. What can I say about Flora? Indeed, what should I say? To begin, she was much more than a friend and colleague. She was like a sister to me, older and wiser. Although she was less than 1 year older, she never missed an opportunity to remind me that she was my big sister, especially when she wanted me to do what she thought was good for me. She was always in command, not in any nasty way, and hard not to obey. I used to warn newcomers to the Department of Economics about Flora, and that she was the one who must be obeyed. Further, it was easy to get into an argument with Flora, but difficult to win or convince her of your point of view. She had a formidable mind, sharp, original, and critical. Her criticisms were many and varied. They were motivated, though, by love, or what the Italians would say, criticare amore, translating to criticize is to love. Furthermore, I learnt a great deal from Flora, especially from reading at least twice through the manuscript of her thoughtful book, Work and Social Justice, that was published last year. It's an amazing achievement, completed at age 87, when retired academics would have long retired from retirement, not Flora. I also learnt from her an apt Palestinian saying about day-to-day life that she often repeated to me. Yom masal, yom basal. One day honey, one day onion. The translation is true, although it doesn't rhyme. Lastly, I was looking forward to last Thursday, February 29th, to celebrate her nominal 22nd birthday and to thank her for being in my life for nearly 50 years. I have so many cherished memories of her that in a way I don't think I'll actually miss her. Flora is now up there with her friends Judy Yates, Margaret Powell, and my wife Salem, who Flora liked more than she liked me.
A tribute sent by former students of Flora's, Paul Kitney and Maria Abonizio, who are with us on the live stream from Hong Kong. And they have said that Flora was much more than an inspiring teacher for us. She had the unique ability to inspire confidence. From when we were in our late teens, she would listen patiently to our thoughts and encourage intellectual expression, no matter how far-fetched, and would always take us seriously. Later in life, as we got to know her on many levels, we could see that her intellectual generosity was only the tip of the iceberg of her kindness and thoughtfulness. She inspired us to be who we are, and we are forever grateful. We love you, Flora. God bless you and your beautiful family. Paul and Maria. Well, I know that there are so many stories, and we could just do a durational performance till the end of time where everybody here shares and continues to add to the rich weave of Flora and her life. I thank all of you for being here. We all know in no uncertain terms that Flora lived fully and richly with all that she had, and she would expect the same from us. And so although her life here with us is complete, what I do know is that your relationships with Flora continue. The love and the friendships that you shared remain. And these will be with all of you always, deeply enriched by the weave of storytelling we are now held in. We're going to come to the completion of our ceremony shortly, but not our afternoon and evening together. Let's stay connected. Let's sit down and literally break bread and be together and do what Flora wanted all of us to do, which is to eat and share and continue stories and to drink champagne, which is sitting there waiting for us on the bar. There'll also be beautiful images of Flora playing during the afternoon and evening. I invite all of you to know what it is that you now have that will be with you always. I wish everybody on the live stream a beautiful morning, evening or afternoon. And I would like us all to bring Flora foremost to our hearts as we say, Flora Gill, today we have honoured you with all that we have. And we know that you are free and at peace, held by our love in the cycle of life. And it is with gratitude and love for the life that you lived here on earth and for what that life means to us that we thank you for being exactly who you were. For your vibrant, charismatic and passionate self. We thank you for all that you believed in and all that you strove to make a reality in the world. We thank you for your strength and your courage, your vulnerability and your care. And we resolve to carry that sense of you with us so that you live as we live. And in the consciousness of work so well done and of a life so well lived, death, in its deepest sense, release, has but a soft sting. And so Flora Gill, always with us, always loved, travel safe in the mysterious realms beyond embodied living. And as we began this ceremony with Chopin's Nocturne, we will complete this ceremony with Chopin's Nocturne as a representative of the unbreakable bond and the cycle of life. We say, Vale, Flora, you lived brilliantly.